Since when is there math involved with having this Reborn doll hobby? Where is the math? Hello, it's Yvonne, and welcome to Having You On. It's time for another edition of In the Crib, and today's topic is how to determine the ideal body size for your reborn baby doll. So let's get going and let's find out. If you know me, I start off small and I go big. But first I have a big and small all in one because this is my newest little one. So that's my big announcement. And she's new to my collection. She is the Rachel Sculpt by Cheryl Weber. And if you recognize her, she's the twin to my Morticia. What I wanted to get into is how to determine the ideal body size for your reborn. I was going through my collection and checking out the bodies, and it occurred to me this would be a good thing to talk about because some of my babies had the wrong bodies, and I wanted to tell you how I determined they had the wrong ones. So here we go. First, I want to do a comparison of preemie sizes. They vary a great deal, as well as show you actual measurements that will kind of help clarify things a little bit. This is the Tate Sculpt, and over here is the Wee Jan Sculpt. And recently I reborned the Tate Sculpt. I wanted to add more color to her because I felt that she was a fresh newborn. And so I added a lot more modeling to her and gave her a little bit more pink going on because, as you know, she is a fussy baby. See, so we want to keep her quiet for our video. So I wanted to show you something. They have a soft tape measuring tape, and if you don't have one, you can use a string and then take the string and place it on a ruler. I'm going to determine the circumference of their heads. So to start off with the Tate Sculpt, which I renamed Alice. Oh, I also gave her some painted hair. She didn't have any hair before. And so she is 11 and a half. Okay. And I also want to do Wee Jan's, and she is, let's see, she's about 11 and a half, but she's more like 11 and a quarter. But wait a minute, you're looking at them, and doesn't the Tate Sculpt look like it has such a smaller head in comparison to the Wee Jan's? What is going on? Well, I recently took out Wee Jan's and I looked at her body, and it didn't look proportionate because I took off her onesie and I was looking at her, and she had a 16-inch body on before, and now she has on a 18-inch body. Well, let's go and do some more measurements, shall we? Because something else is still going on here. I love things that are a puzzle, and let's figure this out. So little Tate is about, she's about 15 inches long to her little toe. I know you probably can't see, but to her little toe. She does have bent legs, so that also makes a difference in the size as well. So Wee Jan's is, let's see what she is. She's about 15 and a half. She's about 15 and a half. Okay, now the circumference of the heads are about the same, and they're the same length. I recently took off the 16-inch body that Wee Jan's had and put on an 18-inch body. Wow. That's quite odd, isn't it? How it's a longer body. Her circumference of her head is about the same. As you tell, this one is 16 inches because it has so much give to the onesie. And what I do to make them fit a little bit better is I undo them, and you can do them two ways. I like to pin it up, or you can even tuck it under and fold this under. So you can tell that she's shorter, as you can tell. She's on a shorter 16-inch body. I'll show you a little demonstration on kind of giving you a better judgment of the size. So again, she was on a 16-inch body, but her limbs look ridiculous. They really did. They looked way too big for the body. So that's why I put on a 18-inch body. So another way to determine that is she does look better on a longer body because her limbs are, I don't know, they seem a little bit longer to me. So you see that? She look longer, see that? Than the Tate sculpt. See, this is, see, yeah, it looks shorter. This somehow looks longer. See that? Longer. And because they have longer limbs, they need a longer body. Shorter limbs need a shorter body. So that's what was throwing the Reborn look off. Longer limbs need a longer body. Shorter limbs need a shorter body. Even though in the end they end up the same. They do, they end up the same because she has longer limbs. But at first you don't know what is going on. It wasn't until I looked at a good look at the body on a, when she was on a smaller body, I said, her limbs are longer. So that's sort of a clue. So take a look at the length of the limbs of your Reborn, and if the body looks a little too short to you, or the limbs look ridiculous in size compared to the body, it's on the wrong body. It's on the wrong body. So I want to show you something else. Here we go. I feel it's best to demonstrate through comparison. So here we are. I have the Tate sculpt and I have the Rachel sculpt, which you had seen earlier. She has a name. I will have to do a name announcement. But I also want to show you the difference in circumference of their heads. Now, if you remember, Tate was about, she's about 11 and a half. Isn't that what I said? About 11 and a half. And let's measure the Rachel sculpt's head. And you can already tell that she's considerably smaller head. You just feel it in your hand. That also will give it away. If you don't want to measure it, you can just feel it in your hand. It's so much smaller. And let's see. She has about a 10 and a half. Let's say, we're just going to say it's about that. It's about 10 and a half. Yeah, about 10 and a quarter. So you could tell that she has a considerably smaller head. Now here we go, going on with that strange math stuff going on. So she's on a 16-inch body, and so is the Tate sculpt. They're both on 16-inch body, but yet you take a look, and I'll have to measure that. That can't be. And even though she's on a 16-inch body, she's about 15 inches. And what was the Tate sculpt? Let's measure the Tate sculpt again. And she is 15 inches. Wait a minute. How can they be on the same body and about the same length again? It's the same thing happening once again. It has to do with the determination of the length of the limbs. Her limbs are longer. So she needs a bigger body, even a longer body, even though her head is small. Yeah, she needs a longer body. So no, she's on the correct body now, I wanted to say. If you put her on like a 14-inch body, she just doesn't look proportionate. I know, I did try, and I did take a look at that. And so even though her limbs are longer than the Tate sculpt, she does need, I have to show you, her little legs go on and on. See that? They're very long and skinny. And so she would need a longer body than you would think that she would need. So yeah, she's on a 16-inch body because she needs a 16-inch body. That's the way it is because of the length of her limbs. So it's the length of the limbs that give it away. I always feel it's best to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So this Rachel sculpt is the same sculpt as my Morticia. When Morticia arrived to me, she was on an 18-inch body. When I say 18-inch body, I hope you realize it's not actually 18 inches. You realize that? It's not actually 18 inches, but it's for a baby that would be 18 inches. I hope you understand why they always word it that way. So she was on an 18-inch body, but as you know, her head is way too small for an 18-inch body, and her limbs are skinny and long, but on this body it just wasn't proportionate. As you see, it's so much longer. So, and yeah, see that? So much longer. So I never did like the body that Morticia had, and I realized that she was meant for a smaller body. And so here we have the 16-inch body, which fits the Rachel sculpt ideally. Oh, I have to measure the length in case you're curious. Again, I measured her before. I thought I did. Yeah, so let's measure her again so you get it. Let's see, did she grow? Maybe if I put her foot in a different position. But she's about 15 inches. So she's 15 inches, and she would not belong on an 18-inch body, as you see. It's just misproportionate. So I hope that helps clarify. So let's go on and see some more comparisons. I hope you're there, because here comes the easiest, quickest tip of them all that doesn't require all that measuring. Well, it does a little bit, but not too much worry. What I was showing you before is a simple comparison of by looking at the limbs, looking at the circumference of the head, but there's even a simpler way of doing it. You simply look up the Sculpt. Look up the Sculpt online, and it'll give you information, it'll have the circumference and all that stuff, but it will also, most importantly, it will give you the length that the Reborn was meant to be, or around there. And you simply measure your own Reborn and see if it is. See if it's too short, see if it's too long, and you'll know a little bit better in determining if it's on the right body. So I also wanted to say, well, what if you don't know the name of the Sculpt? Well, it's going to take a little bit more looking around, and I will demonstrate with the next little one I have here. This is my little Rowena. You don't get to see her very often. She was a gift to me, and I treasure her. I didn't know what Sculpt she was. It took a little bit of work, but I did find out. I did look at the back of her neck. That's the first place you look. You look at the back of her neck, and sometimes some Reborns will have the name of the Sculpt actually inside, so you'll have to take the head off and it'll have it inside sometimes. Just letting you know, sometimes it's there and sometimes it's on the back of the neck. But I did find, I did know that somehow this was a Bountiful Baby Sculpt because it said Bountiful Baby on the back of its head. So I knew it had to be a Bountiful Baby, and I did find it under the discontinued ones. And I didn't know the whole time what she was, that she is the Joseph Sculpt. And I just treasure her. And I will let you know, see how she's smaller than the Rachel Sculpt? You see that? She's smaller. And so you know where I'm going to go now. So this, it says that she's about, let's see, I'll cheat a little bit. She's about 12 and a half. She's 12 and a half inches long. So does she have the same body? No, she does not have the same 16-inch body as the Rachel Sculpt. As you can see, she's going smaller. This is a 14-inch body. So I will show you. This is the 14-inch body. So you can see that's the body she has on. She's 14 inches. She's not 16. See that? See, there's a big difference. Just 2 inches makes a big difference in the size of the Reborn. So since we were talking about 2 inches, I have another baby for you to see. We're going smaller, and then we'll go larger so you can see. Here's a little demo of, in comparison of the Reborns and what difference it makes in the increments of 2. So we have 16, 14, and 10 inches. And again, this is another one of those discontinued sculpts. She's the Kyra Sculpt, and it is Gil. Little Gil, but does not make him too grumpy if I call him a girl's name. So again, it's the 2 inches. So here we go. He has a little furry head, so it makes it a little bit longer, but he is actually 10 inches. And again, Rowena she's on a 14-inch body, but yet she was 12 inches because her little limbs are bent, her little legs are bent. So that makes her a little bit shorter. If her legs were straighter, then she would be 14 inches. So, and also the circumference of the head is considerably smaller. And you can even feel it. You don't really need to measure it. You could actually feel it in your hand and compare it to sizes of fruit. You could tell it was much smaller. So his little head is only 9 inches. So I hope that's a little bit more clear. I'm going to move on to some more babies, a little bigger babies, so you can see the comparison. Here are my 2 girls, and the reason I want to compare them is, well, they both have the sideways look. That has nothing to do with it. But what I'm most interested in is their bottes. So this one she is 19 inches, and this one is 19 inches. So they're both 19 inches. So let's check the circumference of their heads. There's a reason why I'm showing these 2 together, because they're not the same. And this one is 14 inches, and this one is 14 inches. Are they on the right bodies? Well, their heads are the same, their lengths are the same, and their limbs look right to me. That doesn't look overwhelmingly too short or too long. And I do want to point out there is a difference in the body styles. Of course, this one has full limbs and this one is 3/4 limbs. And I have seen and I have purchased Reborns that were front leg loaded, and even though they had 3/4 legs, that they were put on a full leg body, and that always bothered me because their legs always ended up short. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up is 3/4 versus full limbed bodies, and making sure that your Reborn is on the correct body. If they have 3/4 limbs, they should have 3/4 body. If they have full limbs, they should have a full limb body. I have Reborns where the legs have been full and they were placed on a 3/4 body. So that's so important, is noticing the length of Reborn's limbs. And that's the last point I wanted to bring up. And stay tuned because more things are coming up. And please subscribe for more. I'm Yvonne. Thanks so much for watching Having You On, the Reborn Feel Good channel. Take care.